Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to episode 2 of Voice Over Histories. I'm Katie Aitken, and this is a docu-series that shines a light on the people, the projects, and the stories from the voiceover industry of days gone by. In this episode, we're exploring a voiceover origin story. So join me to discover the first use of voiceover in animation. The dawn of voiceover is fairly commonly thought to have occurred in the animation industry. However, not only was animation not the first industry to use voiceover, but the cartoon thought to take the credit. It wasn't even the first cartoon to have voiceover, and far less the first to synchronize sound to picture. So let's do away with the myth first. Disney's Steamboat Willie was not the conception of voiceover or the first cartoon to feature voice, despite often being erroneously referred to as such. Steamboat Willie came out in America in 1928 as a black and white short and was the world's first introduction to Mickey and Minnie Mouse. In fact, it was Walt Disney himself who provided the sound effects for Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Pegleg Pete, and the parrot. The real voiceover originator in animation goes to Walt Disney's rivals, Max Fleischer and his brothers of Fleischer Studios, and their cartoon My Old Kentucky Home, which was released in 1926. 2 years earlier than Steamboat Willie. This short featured the first cartoon character with a line of spoken dialogue, which you can see here.
And join in, everybody.
In fact, 2 years prior to My Old Kentucky Home, in 1924, it was Fleischer Studios again who came out with the Coco Song cartoons. These were a series of 3-minute animated films, including the likes of Come Take a Trip in My Airship and Oh Mabel. This series pioneered the bouncing ball format to help guide audiences in singing theatre songs. This meant that they featured synchronized sound and music to picture, the precursor to voiceover artistry. With hindsight, of course, being the first in the animation industry to pair sound with animated image was an incredible achievement. However, at the time, it wasn't quite seen that way. The Fleischer's early offerings came at a time where the idea of talking pictures, albeit a novelty, was considered to be little more than a short-term fad. Bear in mind, the first part-talkie film was The Jazz Singer, which came out in 1927, 3 years after Fleischer Studios started releasing their Coco Song cartoons, and 1 year after My Old Kentucky Home, with actual dialogue. This is important in the history of voiceover because it suggests that it took years for Hollywood to come round, years for them to shift their opinions on synchronizing sound and spoken dialogue to image. As a result of Hollywood getting on board, there were subsequent developments in audio quality, as well as improved public opinion and critical success. One such audio development, a particular piece of technology, played an essential role in the story of voiceover in animation. Interestingly, though, it also bears erroneous credits when it comes to remembering who was first. The technology in question is the Phonofilm. The Phonofilm allowed for sound on film and was invented in 1919 by Lee DeForest. However, by 1927, DeForest had filed for bankruptcy yet again. He supposedly prided himself on making and then losing 4 fortunes in his lifetime. At that point, A chap called Pat Powers, who owned Celebrity Pictures, swooped in and hired a former technician of DeForest to exactly recreate the Phonofilm sound recording system. Of course, this was an infringement on DeForest's patent, but he was already in too weak a financial position to take any legal action. Powers named the copied device Powers Cinephone and convinced Disney to use this system for Steamboat Willie. Steamboat Willie was used to open for the part-talkie main feature, Gang War, and was immediately well received by the public and critics alike. A review at the time by Variety read, "Not the first animated cartoon to be synchronized with sound effects, but the first to attract favorable attention. This one represented a high order of cartoon ingenuity, cleverly combined with sound effects. The union brought laughs galore. Giggles came out so fast at the colony, they were stumbling over each other." This unprecedented commercial success had huge ramifications for the animation industry. For example, before Steamboat Willie and Mickey Mouse arrived on the scene, Felix the Cat was a hugely successful cartoon. This character in animation enjoyed the height of its popularity during the silent film era. However, a Felix the Cat animator called Hal Walker is quoted as having said, "Disney put us out of business with his sound." In terms of popularity and sustained preeminence in early animations that featured sound and voiceover, that title rightly goes to Disney's Steamboat Willie. However, there is a lot of misplaced credit when recalling actual firsts in voiceover and sound synchronization in animation. And that goes from the animation title and its creator to the person who actually developed the sound synchronization system which made it all possible. Some of the biggest names in voice acting these days specialize in animation, such as Frank Welker and Nancy Cartwright. It's a multi-billion-pound global industry with a value that's forecast to grow a whopping 60% over the next decade. The names of Max Fleischer and Lee DeForest and the titles of The Coco Song Cartoons and My Old Kentucky Home may not quite enjoy the innovative legacy that they deserve, but their contributions were truly pioneering. So, the next time you watch an episode of Family Guy or the latest Pixar movie, you can now recall these figures and productions and remember where it all began a century ago. If you enjoyed this episode, you can check out last week's episode about Eartha Kitt, the voice behind Yzma from The Emperor's New Groove. And in next week's episode, we'll be exploring behind the mic again with another voiceover legend, the man of 1,000 voices, Mel Blanc. Bye for now.